All right, so we're gonna start with some introductions, and then we will get right into our insights. And then hopefully make some time for discussion. So we have lots of folks from different sort of spaces in the room, which is exciting. So I'm Sonali, this is Cathy. Cathy, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Cathy Huang. I'm the product lead at Avela, and it's really nice to see everyone here this morning.
Great. I'm Sonali, our client services lead. So I get to work with clients across the country. We'll talk just for a few moments about Avela in a minute. But my background before joining Avela is I worked at 2 different school districts, including Oakland Unified, where I was a charter authorizer, which is definitely a contentious place to be doing that work. So lots of experience working with charters. And before that, I worked at New York City Department of Ed in kind of the accountability office and the enrollment office. So lots of experience kind of in your shoes or adjacent to your shoes. We would love to get a quick sense of who's in the room. Probably don't have time to do one-by-one intros right now, but if you could raise your hand if you are with a charter school. All right, so maybe about half the room. And then if you're with kind of a partner who works with charter schools, great. And then if you're a vendor like us, maybe. Great, yeah, cool, awesome. Right, nice to have you all. And here is Greg Bybee, our CEO. Give a nice wave, perked. All right. So if you'll indulge us, we'll just do a few minutes overview about who we are at Avela. Has anyone heard of us already before coming to this session? Yeah, Greg, good. Greg's the founder as well, I should have mentioned. All right, cool. Well, nice to have you all here. So at Avela, our mission, as you can see up here, is to ensure every child has access to a great education. And our vision, really the way we want to get there, is to provide a platform for families to navigate their child's educational journey and apply to all the schools and programs that they would be interested in with a single click. This starts with, of course, applying to your K-12 school or your pre-K school, but extends to things like your after-school programming or your summer camps. I have a 4-year-old toddler, and gives me a lot of activities already, and they're all around different platforms. So those of you who are parents are probably familiar with that. So our goal is to really help streamline all that so you can go to one place and see all your kiddos' activities in a single click. So we have several products that we offer. Avela Explore is a school navigator tool for families to put in their address, see what schools are nearby, learn more about all of those schools. Avela Apply is the heart of the system, the application. Families create a profile, submit all of their information. Administrators can review all that on the back end. The match, of course, is where you want to do a lottery. It can give enough if you're oversubscribed and have enough students to do that. There are lots of kind of complex algorithms that can go into that. Avela Enroll is our registration and enrollment platform for all of that kind of follow-on paperwork, online paperwork, immunization, referrals, those kinds of things. And then we offer, kind of unique to some of our competitors in the space, we offer various services and supports. Lots of folks on our team are really experienced in this space. We've had folks who kind of run a common charter app, I've been to your school districts, and so we've heard a lot of rich experience that we can kind of help advise people on their enrollment and lottery practices. So it's a snapshot of some of our clients. So lots of charter clients kind of across the country, lots of common apps across the country, and then some large and medium-sized school districts as well. All right. Let's jump into it unless folks have any questions so far on our list. Okay, once we get into the insights, I think we'll have a little bit of time if folks have questions for us to for them to kind of pop in as we go. Otherwise, we definitely have a few points where we'll want to stop and do a little turn down. All right, you want the clicker, Cathy?
Great. These are going to be the 6 insights that we're going to talk through today. We're going to start with a lot on the application side, and then talk a lot about waitlists, and ultimately make the process easier for your families and for you all who are deemed the leads of the enrollment process. All right, our first insight is to know when to ask what. So we've observed a few things in our applications. The first is it takes families on average about 30 seconds per question. Now there may be some nesting in these questions, some branching logic, but they pause, they think. So just know that every additional question you add to your application will result in more time that it takes for the family to complete it. The second thing we've also observed is that when there are required, or when there are even not required file uploads, families kind of stall out at that point. So if you don't need to include a file upload in your application process, we would recommend that you leave that until later during registration and only ask those questions that are required for your lottery process. We see that 77% left and then came back to do file uploads. And even in our application, we have the ability to take a picture on your phone. We still see families leave and then come back to complete the application, which I think is a very natural. I think all of us have experienced that, right, when we're applying to our, patients or like medical records. We all kind of leave and they come back, and so I think that's a very observable piece of what our families are doing as well. And then depending on the organization, we do see abandoned applications. A lot of this has to do with the follow-up that your team, your staff is doing. But every time they leave, there's a chance that they never come back and never apply. So that's why we want them to stay and apply in one session instead of leaving and coming back as much as possible. Any questions about this in your application design? All right. Our second insight, equitable access goes beyond ADA accessibility. So when we talk about accessibility, and especially as one product, we often talk about WCAG 2.1 and the accessibility that's required for color contrast to text or navigation. But accessibility starts wider than that. And so the first is just having families be able to access the system. And so different communities we've observed have the ability to log in with phone or email. And we see a wide range of how people are logging in. Some people may not have emails or may not really use email. So having a phone login gets them the ability to log in. Some folks, may prefer email. Some folks' email and phone numbers change. So just making sure that they can get into the system is the first part.
And I would say we even have families going back and forth between phone and email. And one thing that's cool about our phone login is actually it's a passwordless. So you just put in your phone number and get a code texted. You don't have to memorize the password. So we see, it's part of the kind of, like Cathy said, just part of the accessibility of getting families in whichever way is most comfortable for them.
The second point, the wording that you use on your application matters a lot. So the average reading level at US is a 7th or 8th grade, and so if your application uses language or jargon that is more complicated, that can prevent families from understanding, what they should be doing. So keep that language simple. In Avela, the applications all range around a 7th or 8th grade reading level, but of course, if we could make that even easier to understand, we're all for that. The next one is on translations. So easy translations is absolutely key. You all know this in your communities that there are many folks who don't speak English as a first language or don't speak English at home, and so making sure that your application is translated easily into all of those languages and that you have a way to communicate with those families in those languages is really important. And we also want to make sure the burden on you to do those translations is lower as well. So less work for you, more readily available translations, and then more access to the families in your community. And then finally, of course, WCAG web accessibility is still absolutely important. So when you're putting logos, colors into your applications, do think about that color contrast, the alt text, the easy navigation of your online application so that families who are vision impaired can still navigate through the system.
What's the alt text, Cathy?
Oh, alt text is text that you can put onto images so that it's a description of that image. Because if you can't see the image, you can at least hear a description of it. Any questions?
Just curious, First, and that, how long is it to application take to complete?
It really depends on how long it is. And so I think we've seen, if an application is around 20 questions, we've seen it take about 10 minutes, which is where that 30 seconds per question came about. And of course, if your application is longer, then they'll take longer. And then if you have a file upload in there, it'll take even longer.
And is there any correlation between incomplete applications and the length of the application takes?
It's a little, during the first pass, there is a correlation that we've observed, so that if there are, well, I would say file uploads especially, we see that drop off. However, because many folks are following up with families afterwards, many do come back and return, but we want to get people through the first time so that we're not doing as much follow-up as needed. All right, our insight number 3 is that families naturally trend towards an omni-channel experience. So 75 to 80% of our users go on their mobile phone. So it's absolutely crucial to have a great mobile experience. And we've also observed that families are twice as likely to submit the application on desktop, which is an interesting correlation, or not correlation, it's an interesting kind of pattern that we've observed. And so what that means is families are starting their applications on mobile, and they get to a certain point, and then they decide to switch to desktop. And so something for you all to think about is to make sure that both of those experiences are excellent. And then what we learned from that is we observed that even in your welcome centers or in person, that you can have families start those applications while they're waiting. So let's say they come into your school, they're asking for help. Even when you're waiting, you can have them start on mobile, and then you can help them when they get to your staff who's there now.
Yeah, we spent some time thinking about why that behavior behind that. People feel like it's more official to submit it on a desktop, or maybe they're more comfortable uploading their documents on their desktop. All right, so we have a few insights around the kind of lottery waitlist process, which is my favorite topic. So dynamic waitlists can help maintain your equitable enrollment goals. So a dynamic waitlist means that as families are applying late to your school, rather than just getting added to the bottom chronologically, which would be what we call a static waitlist, you can still prioritize them based on things like sibling preference or zip code or whatever other preferences you might have in your community that you decided in your charter were really important to your goals. And so what we seek right now with our charter clients is there is a whole lot of variation in how people are handling the post-lottery waitlist. So we see folks with no lottery priorities whatsoever, like that static one I talked about. We see some that maintain a subset of lottery priorities, so just sibling, let's say, in a post-lottery world. And then we see some that mirror the exact same lottery preferences. So we definitely see variation there. And then in general, we also see that this movement after the lottery, and I'm sure you all are experiencing this, it is huge. So we kind of have some, we don't want to talk about this as much, but we have some roots in academia. 2 of our founders are MIT economists, so we often refer to the post-lottery as the aftermarket. So sort of after that big market, there's a lot of the lottery, there's a lot of movement in families. So I think in Oakland, where I worked, 50% of enrollment of finally where, I don't know if you guys have the phrase, kind of butts in seats, like where kids landed in October or September, was actually kind of through post-lottery movement. And so it's really important to think about the dynamics of what you want to have your setup be in the post-lottery. So a few things we've learned here. Of course, you all are trying to make offers as quickly as possible, right? You're trying to get those seats filled, and you know that. So a waitlist that does constantly prioritize students based on those factors can help you still maintain your any of those kind of goals around what you want your population to look like, even in a world where you're making offers pretty quickly. Those post-lottery priorities, as I mentioned, do not need to exactly vary your lottery priorities. So we have some clients with very complicated, 30% of seats to this group, 20% preference for this, and then it's that is very complicated to think about how to maintain in the post-lottery world. So you could think about slimming it down to just, let's say sibling and zip code. Those are the 2 we're going to really care about in the post-lottery world. Of course, this depends on your charter. And I think this other point
having some post-lottery priorities really clearly articulated, you can actually use that as a marketing point with your families. So let's say you have 3 zip codes you're prioritizing, you can be really clear with those families, like, hey, yes, you're applying late, but it doesn't mean that you're just going to be at the bottom of this long wait list. You guys still get prioritized towards the top, so we really encourage you to submit an application. So it can be really strategic if you use it that way. Okay, another waitlist one. Waitlist yields will decrease with time. So I'm sure this is also something folks have kind of anecdotally experienced, but we see that as time goes on from the point of lottery to when the school year starts and into the school year, that the number of offers you need to make in order to get an actual acceptance and a person to show up increases. So maybe in the beginning, it's sort of every 2 offers yields a seat, and then we see that go up to kind of like 6 or even more offers to get to a seat. We'll talk a little bit about what we call waitlist clutter in a minute. And it's similar to how we have variation in that kind of dynamic priorities. We also have variation in how common apps handle waitlist clearing. So for those of you who are on a common application, which we have in New York City, and Buffalo, and Rochester, we see in some common application systems that everyone's treated as kind of an independent school with their own lottery and their own enrollment. It's just a single place that families can go to kind of find out about all the schools, but each school is really operate independently. Then we see folks where they clear lower ranked waitlists. So what that might mean is everybody gets put into a lottery, and let's say you get offered your first and your third choice, so your 4th and your 5th choices are canceled because we know that you preferred your first, second, and third choices over those, and you got offers to 2 of them. That's a strategy that can really help what we call declutter waitlists, so you don't have as many families just sitting around on waitlists who are very unlikely to accept that offer, which we all know takes up a lot of time as you're going through and calling those families to help get the good time. Then kind of moving along, there's single accept, which means families can have multiple offers, but they're only allowed to accept a single seat. And that can obviously, of course, help with efficiencies. And the single best offer is really kind of the most efficient world where you put everybody into a lottery and family ranks 5 choices, they're mostly going to get 1 offer. And so if they get their first choice, they cannot get any of their other choices. All right, so things that we've learned here. Because of this ratio of offers sort of changing over time, this is a typical pattern I would say we see folks use where in the beginning of the school year, in the beginning of the lottery process, maybe you allow 2 weeks for a family to accept a lottery offer. And as time goes, maybe you over the summer change that to 5 days. So you make an offer on Monday and it expires on Friday. And then as you get even closer to the school year starting, maybe you drop that down to 48 hours. We don't typically see people go below 48 hours. It has been done, but I'd say that's kind of the minimum people go to. So you make an offer on Monday, expire on Wednesday, make another round of offers on Wednesday, they expire on Friday. All right, and we kind of talked about this, in a common app world, you could do different things to really help declutter those wait lists, which is it is an advantage of being part of a common app. All right, and then our kind of last point, our last insight here is that easy for parents means easy for admins. I really felt like, especially when I was in Oakland, there were a lot of things that if we made it easier for the parents, it actually would be harder for us as administrators. Translations is a big one. Cathy kind of mentioned where we would have to manually, the vendor we were on would have to manually translate every single sentence in the application, and it was very hard when the family came in to figure out what was happening. Making it super easy for families these days with much higher quality machine translation, the ability to kind of override those with human translations, that makes it much easier for parents, and it also makes it easier for you because those families are now being supported naturally in their native language writing the application. Transparency for families, so things like showing them their waitlist number, kind of showing them their status, telling them all the time when they log in, here's where you are in the application, here's the next step, yay, you submitted on the first day, offers aren't going out for 3 months, so don't call me every day, but that happened for 3 months, right? So that kind of transparency and having that built right into the system can really help reduce the number of calls and emails you're getting from families, which lets your staff then prioritize other big things that, families, supporting families who are in the most need, maybe going out to shelters and helping families there apply, staying connected to families after they accept. We know that there could be a drop-off, right, from when a family accepts to the next 6 months, maybe before school starts. And obviously just helping generally with marketing efforts for your school. Okay, so those are 6 insights. Let's see how much time we have. All right, we have a few minutes left. Would love to, maybe instead of the turn and talk, take a minute to see if we have any questions from the group or any reflections. Does any of this particularly resonate with what people kind of are experiencing in their communities? There's lots of robust discussion at the turn and talk before, so we're hopeful someone wants to speak up. Yeah, please.
Do you have any data in the New York City area how many schools are actually using Common App?
I think the majority are on the Common App, but they also are on their own independent. So it's a different kind of a Common App where, like, it's so kind of talking about the ranges of Common Apps. It's not one where there's a kind of coordinated effort to make sure families are always sitting in one seat. Now, one thing on that, actually, when I was in Oakland, we even went so far as to coordinate the charter schools with the district so that a family couldn't hold a seat in both the charter school and a district school. We would look based on data for families who looked like they were holding both seats, and then basically tell families you got to choose one. Because in communities where there is a heavy kind of charter and district population, I'm sure you guys know, day one of school, you know, like 30% of your kids maybe aren't showing up, and then there's a big scramble. And so that was actually extra work. That's like bonus points work if you can get there. I think that's really helpful for both sides, even in contentious environments. Like Oakland's a very contentious charter environment, and even there, everyone acknowledged that coordinating on those kinds of things is helpful for everybody. Great question. Yeah, please.
You said something that you guys said there was something that resonated with me, and one of the points that I just heard was the post when they, after the enrollment process, the aftermarket movement.
Yeah.
Because we're a K-8 school, I sit on the school board, and we're struggling with our enrollment in the 6th and 7th grades. I think because we don't offer K through 12, then people are choosing to make this, parents are choosing to make decisions sooner in the high school arena. So do you notice those rates typically be lower if you're not a K-8 school? Just so I can bring back to the team if this is something that's more common amongst other school systems.
So are families sort of coming to your school and then in middle school they're leaving, or they're sort of not even necessarily coming from middle school?
So it's a variety, it's a probably a combination of both. Like they come, they bring them to our pre-K through 8, but then like that 6th, they want to try to talk about high school.
Yeah.
We're not a school that offers a high school component, but there are several within our district who does our charter. So we wonder if these parents are gambling and saying, hey, let's go out now in this phase so we can secure a spot in that high school. So I was wondering if you noticed if you...
There is a lot of movement from middle around those kind of middle school grades. I would say it's not even just that. It's not even for wanting a K-12 experience, but there's also a lot of folks who want kind of that big high school experience that a lot of times this another school can't offer, right? They want the sports, they want the music, they want all the things and clubs. And so there is naturally a lot of movement. So I would say it's definitely not unique to you all. Yeah, good, I think good point.
Yeah, I do a lot of work on the recruitment side, and sometimes we process applications on behalf of parents, right? We get the initial information, process applications, and then I get emails saying, hey, your child was enrolled, and congratulations, your child get access to the lottery, or won a seat to the lottery. So is there a way in the platform to actually have like a staff member at the school level process applications and then put the parent as the user to get follow-up?
Yes, yeah, really good question. Yeah, we have a lot. We really see it. This is an area that charter schools really shine. That's really helping the families to submit that application on behalf of the family. So yeah, administrators support the family from the family's account, which is really nice. And again, that family account could be a phone or an email, and so you don't could be which is really nice. Yeah, great question. There was please.
Just two pain points. One is
please.
the short wait list. I mean,
Yeah.
New York City suffers from that because people are commuting out of New York City every day. So enrollment becomes a year-long thing.
Yes.
As against just
Yes.
something at the beginning.
That was almost one of our insights. Is enrollment is no longer seasonal. It is all year round. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, and I think that really changes, how you staff those positions, because it used to be maybe all hands on deck for a few months, but now it's really a different game. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Was there a hand in the back? Yes.
Yeah. Do you think that early integrated these two stations, like a China was, Holland one?
Oh yes, this is Cathy's favorite topic, integrations. Yeah, we're happy to chat with you about, obviously Power School is kind of the most popular one out there, but we have lots of integrations with different SASs. Yeah. Yeah, great. Yes.
So I'm in Rochester, so we're
Cool.
half an hour.
Yes, we are
So,
going to be talking soon, probably.
so is this more of like a secondary column that kids for our families to use? Like, there's so many things with our enrollment process that is a big thing point. But we're an all-girls charter school. We're the only all-girls charter school in Delaware County. So we get a lot of students and families that want that single-gender school for their daughters,
Yeah.
right? So they are from Yemen, they speak Arabic and Somali, and so the language translation is huge for us.
Yes, it's not just Spanish anymore.
Right, it's not. And but then with our application process, with the families speaking other languages, we don't know where the girls are coming in with their English abilities, and then trying to provide them with like ELL services and like that. So that's something that we would like to be able to like collect that
Gauge
information.
more on the earlier side.
Yeah, so that we can decide if we can support them
Right.
in our school or
How does
if we just don't have the resources for them. So
Yeah.
for us, that's,
One
that's
thing,
good.
one thing we really like about our platform is it's super flexible. People could ask, obviously the common charter applications portion is very regimented, but when it comes to your kind of your own enrollment to pull on after family's gotten an offer, it's very flexible to ask kind of whatever question if you would want to ask. There's no requirement of what you need to ask, and then sort of no limit on how little or much you can ask. Given your community, you have a very appropriate ask. All right, I know we are over time. The interns in the back have graciously let me go 5 minutes over. So we probably should wrap up. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Greg, Cathy, and I will hang around. Oh, I didn't want my Avela shirt out. Hopefully you'll notice me. And we are looking forward to connecting with lots of you. We have a booth right out here as well. I'll show you the platform.